Sanuzal. Sanuzal was a barbarian warlord of the Noxi tribes who refused to accept death, learned to speak the language of the dead, and came back from the afterlife in an iron shell as a necromantic revenant called Mordekaiser. He conquered the land that would one day become Noxus, ruled it for nearly 3 centuries, and every soul killed under his reign still serves him in a private afterlife he built for himself. Nothing about modern Noxus makes sense without him. The Immortal Bastion, the seat of Noxian government, is built on top of his prison. The Black Rose, the secret cabal that actually runs the Empire, was founded specifically to keep him sealed. The Grand General who rules Noxus right now wields borrowed power that Mordekaiser has publicly claimed already belongs to him. Noxus isn't a country, Noxus is a method, and the 8 figures in this video are the method's 8 most deficient expressions, ranked by the only metric that matters, which is how much of Runeterra they could break if they stopped being polite. We're going in reverse order, starting at number 8, Cassiopeia Dukuto. Cassiopeia is a Noxian noblewoman who was sent to steal the power of the god warriors of Shurima, and instead got transformed into a creature of scales and venom. She was raised in Urzaris, a Shuriman coastal city Noxus absorbed during its southern expansion. Her mother Soriana didn't train her the way her siblings Katarina and Talon were trained. No steel, no blades, Cassiopeia was trained in diplomacy and in poison, the slow and subtle work of ruining people without ever drawing a weapon. After Soriana survived a poisoning attempt of her own, Cassiopeia was inducted into the Black Rose. Here's where it gets really interesting. Her father, Marcus Dukuto, sided with Swain during the coup. Her mother sided against him. Cassiopeia was ordered by the Black Rose to acquire the magic of the ascended god warriors of Shurima. She hired the mercenary Sivir, led her to the tomb of the emperors, and stabbed her. Inside the tomb, a stone serpent guardian bit Cassiopeia. Her flesh seared, her legs fused. She became the thing she is now. Her actions also released Zerath and drove Renekton mad, which implies most of the Shuriman crisis arc traces back to this one mission. She now runs Black Rose operations in Shurima against her own father's allegiance. Crushing strength, venomous bite, a gaze that can turn a man to stone. I'm going with Cassiopeia at number 8, but some of you are going to want Katarina here. And honestly, that's a reasonable argument. Katarina killed King Jarvan III on page in the 2023 comic. I went with Cassiopeia because the brief is threat to Runeterra, not threat in a one-on-one, and Cassiopeia's magic plus the Black Rose plus a Shuriman power base is broader. Fight me in the comments. Ambessa Medarda. Ambessa is the matriarch of House Medarda, a Noxian warlord of the Old Guard, and a devotee of Kindred's Wolf who invaded Piltover as a personal war of vengeance against the Black Rose, and lost. You might recognize her as the antagonist of Arcane's 2nd season. That's canon now. Ambessa is Old Guard Noxian nobility, a warlord whose ideology predates the Trifarics and who despises Swain as a usurper. She worships the wolf, the half of Kindred that hunts. Her devotion to that idea is the through line of everything she does. She had 2 children, Kino Medarda, her assumed heir, and Mel Medarda, the daughter she exiled to Piltover for refusing to be the kind of Medarda she wanted. The Black Rose killed Kino. They thought he was the blood heir to a magical lineage they'd been hunting for generations. Ambessa fled to Piltover after Mel, and this is where the Arcane arc begins. She orchestrated the Memorial Day attack through her bodyguard Rictus to rally Piltover against Zaun. She installed Caitlyn as martial law commander. She killed the Black Rose agent Amara. She allied with Victor for machine-augmented troops and launched the invasion. Here's where the Immortal wins. In the finale, Caitlyn pries the rune stones off Ambessa's body, the stones that had been blocking Black Rose magic, sacrificing an eye to do it. Mel opens a portal into LeBlanc's Thorn Pocket dimension. Ambessa dies in Mel's arms. Her last words are, "You are the wolf." Here's the part the Arcane-only viewers missed. Mel isn't Ambessa's husband's daughter. Mel's real father is a Black Rose defector named Rudo, which means Mel is the blood heir the Black Rose has been hunting for centuries. Kino was the decoy. Ambessa didn't die because she was weak. Ambessa died because she was mortal in a war being fought by immortals. Darius. Darius is the Hand of Noxus, commander of the Trifarian Legion and the pillar of might on the council that rules the Empire. He was born a street orphan in Basilich, a coastal city Noxus was in the process of conquering. He had a younger brother, Draven. When Captain Cyrus of the Noxian war host took the city, Draven tried to assassinate him. Cyrus was impressed rather than offended and recruited both brothers into the army. That's how Darius started. No name, no house, no favors. He rose through the ranks on pure merit in an institution that runs on noble favoritism, which is its own kind of feat. He earned his axe in the conquest of the Varju cloud fortresses. He was named Hand of Noxus and spent years in the Freljord campaigning against Sejuani's Winter's Claw. And when Swain's coup against Borum Darkwill began, Darius was recalled. Here's the part that matters. Darius didn't serve Swain. Darius served the idea of Noxus. He chose the Empire over the Emperor, and that single decision is what made the Trepharics architecture possible. The council works because Darius was willing to hold might without wanting the throne. His brother Draven was the one who personally killed Darkwill. Darius just took his seat. You might recognize him from the Ruination cinematic, the bald man with the axe who gets briefly corrupted by the black mist and almost kills Samira before she slips the swing. That's him. No magic, no demon pact, no thousand-year conspiracy, just the closest thing Noxus has to a god of war in human form. In an empire built on ambition, the most dangerous man is the one who has none. Sion. Sion is the greatest mortal warrior Noxus ever produced, killed in mutual destruction with King Jarvan I of Demacia, and dragged back across 50 years later as an undead juggernaut that tears down city towers with his hands. His first life came generations before Darius. He was Hand of Noxus during the Empire's earliest expansion, and he died at the Battle of Havardis. Pierced by a dozen swords and a score of crossbow bolts, he reached Jarvan I anyway, dropped his axe, tore the crown from the king's head with one hand, and strangled him with the other. Jarvan's guards kept stabbing him. His grip did not loosen until the king was dead. Both men killed each other. Sion's corpse was recovered with the crown still in his fist and interred in the immortal bastion. 50 years later, Noxus was losing its grip on its own empire. Grand General Borum Darkwill accepted a gift from the Black Rose. LeBlanc architected. Vladimir performed the ritual. The body worked. The mind did not. Here's where it gets really interesting. To contain what they'd made, they bolted Jarvan's crown to his jaw. They embedded a ritual dagger in his skull. They riveted his armor into rotted flesh. And they installed a soul furnace in his gut that stacks his health by absorbing the souls of everyone he kills. Darkwill ordered him sealed back in his tomb. Swain inherited him as a state weapon. I'm only speculating here, but the old lore had Sion's mind partially restored with a knife coated in Jarvan IV's blood. That's explicitly retconned now, but Legends of Runeterra still has him yelling, "Vladimir, I remember what you did to me," so take it as soft canon. Some of you will correct me on this. You might recognize him from the Awakened cinematic, the massive undead giant leading the Noxian force into the Ionian temple, the one Irelia, Karma, Akali, Kennen, and Yasuo all fight together. That's him. He is not a soldier. He is Noxus's nuclear deterrent. Other regions bend the knee when threatened with him. He's the weapon. Number 4 is the hand that wields him. Jericho Swain. Swain is the Grand General of Noxus, the architect of the Trepharics Council, and a crippled scholar who made a pact with a demon to rule the empire that tried to kill him. He started as a young Noxian nobleman, book-learned, not battle-trained, and before he was anything else, he was LeBlanc's pawn. She used young Swain as the unwitting instrument of her own faked death, a scheme that exposed a Black Rose conspiracy and got his parents publicly executed alongside the decoy conspirators. He was rewarded with a military commission by a grateful Grand General who had no idea he'd just been manipulated. That's how Swain entered the officer corps. On the bones of his own family, he rose through the ranks and commanded Noxian forces in the invasion of Ionia. At the great stand of the Placidium, Irelia severed his left arm and shattered his knee. He was 14. His warband was annihilated because LeBlanc and Borum Darkwill had deliberately withheld his reinforcements. They wanted him dead. Here's where it gets really interesting. As Swain lay dying on the Placidium, the demon of secrets, Raum, manifesting as the raven Beatrice, offered him power in exchange for knowledge. He accepted. His arm became a demonic prosthetic of ravens and shadow, and he came home with a gift the Empire didn't know how to defend against: precognition. Swain reads the future by eating the memories of the defeated. He built a conspiracy. He recruited Darius and Marcus Ducouteau. Draven personally killed Darkwill, and Swain incinerated the empty throne in scarlet lightning. Then, instead of taking the crown, he established the Trepharics: Vision, which is himself, Might, which is Darius, and Guile, which is an anonymous representative of the Assassin's Guild called the Faceless. Some of you are going to tell me the Faceless is secretly LeBlanc. The wiki is explicit it's an Assassin's Guild representative. Fun theory, not canon. The Realm Pact itself, how it works, what Swain actually trades for each vision, whether he's winning or losing the deal, is a topic for another video. If you'd like me to make a deep dive on Swain and the demons of Runeterra, let me know in the comments. Here's the detail that should keep you up at night. Mordekaiser has a voice line specifically about him. Clutch your borrowed power, Grand General. Your soul is already mine. The implication is that if Swain dies or loses control of Realm, his soul doesn't go to the demon. It goes to the thing sealed beneath his own office. Vladimir. Vladimir is a prince of ancient Camivore who killed his own Darkin master, absorbed a fraction of that power, and has been extending his life on the blood of others for somewhere between 1,000 and 3,000 years. If the name Camivore sounds familiar, it's because that's the same kingdom that produced Viego and Callista. Vladimir is Camivoran royalty. During the Great Darkin War, Camivore's king traded his own son to a Darkin master as a royal hostage, and then broke faith within a year. The Darkin, who had a sense of humor about these things, offered Vladimir armies to lead against the father who'd sold him. Vladimir accepted. He laid waste to Camivore, and he presented his father's head to his master as tribute. He became the first mortal ever taught hemomancy. This was forbidden under Darkin law. And when the Darkin's own war host eventually turned against their master, it was Vladimir who struck the killing blow and absorbed a measure of what was inside. His flesh renewed. His mind, to this day, never entirely did. Most of his life endures not in his memory but in his chronicles. He writes everything down because he cannot trust himself to remember it. I'm going with 2,000 to 3,000 years on his age. Riot deliberately keeps the number vague. The minimum we can prove is about 1100, which is when he met LeBlanc. Some of you will have different numbers. That's fine. During Mordekaiser's reign, Vladimir was worshipped as a bloodthirsty fiend along Valoran's eastern coast. Coastal tribes sent him human sacrifice. When LeBlanc approached him to conspire against their mutual master, they dined together, and as they spoke, the wine at their table soured and the roses withered from red to black. That dinner is the founding image of the Black Rose. Later, he served as Borum Darkwill's personal advisor, and it was Vladimir who performed the hemomancy ritual that brought Scion back. Here's the detail. Vladimir sends an annual letter to whoever currently rules Camivore. None of them have ever been answered, and he once sent a letter to Viego himself, offering to save Isolde from her poisoning. Viego never opened it. If he had, the ruination would never have happened. Vladimir isn't a vampire. He's a man who killed a god, drank a drop of what was inside it, and hasn't stopped drinking since. LeBlanc. LeBlanc is a pale illusionist who has been choosing who sits on the Noxian throne for over 1,000 years, who co-founded the Black Rose, and whose true identity may be unknowable, including to herself. She is older than Noxus. She was one of Mordekaiser's own inner circle acolytes during his 3-century reign, and she watched him enslave the demon Atakan firsthand. She understood what he was, and she understood that he would sacrifice anyone. So she went to the coast, to Vladimir, and she proposed a conspiracy. That was the dinner where the wine soured and the roses withered. The Black Rose begins there, and when Mordekaiser fell, it was LeBlanc personally who severed his soul from his armor. She is the reason he has been sealed for 1,000 years. Here's where it gets really interesting. The old lore split her into 2 figures, Emilia LeBlanc and her daughter Yvain, with LeBlanc as a title passed down between matrons across generations, illusion magic letting them share an appearance. Riot hasn't explicitly retconned this, they've just stopped mentioning it. The current bio reads her as one pale woman who has manipulated people and events since the earliest days of Noxus. And Legends of Runeterra implies many of her clones have gone rogue over the years, which means the question of which LeBlanc is the real one is possibly unanswerable in universe, even to her. The list of things she has done is its own video. She architected Scion's resurrection under Darkwill. She faked her own death using young Swain as the instrument. She personally enchanted Riven's runic blade. In the Medarda arc, she killed Kino, killed Elora, and kidnapped Mel into a Thornpocket dimension of her own making. She was stabbed by Mel in the Arcane S2 finale, but a LeBlanc dying is not the same thing as LeBlanc dying because she is an illusionist who duplicates and possesses bodies across continents. The illusionary sorceress voiced by Minnie Driver in Arcane. Riot confirmed that's her in the Welcome to Noxus cinematic. The full Black Rose, the membership, the Silken Dance, the Rose Guard Academy, the Null program is its own deep dive. If you want me to make a full video on the Black Rose, let me know in the comments. There's enough there for an hour. LeBlanc is not the power behind the throne. She is the throne. Everyone who has ever sat on it has been her furniture. Mordekaiser. Mordekaiser is the first conqueror of what would become Noxus, a necromantic revenant who has already ruled Runeterra once, and the reason every institution in the modern empire exists. His mortal name was San-Uzal. He was a warlord of the Noxi tribes, and he unified the northern wildlands in blood and death. He earned the title Demon's Bane by defeating the demon Arcane and binding the demon to the corpse of his own dead general as a servant. And when San-Uzal died, he expected a warrior's afterlife, the Hall of Bones. He arrived instead in a gray wasteland where souls dissolved into oblivion. His will held him together. He learned Arcane, the profane language of the dead, from the whispers of the damned, and he learned to speak through the veil. A coven of sorcerers tried to resurrect him. Because he had no flesh left, they bound his spirit into dark metal plates instead. And when they tried to complete the ritual with his mortal name, the spell failed, for San-Uzal was no more. With an ethereal rumble, he spoke his new spirit name in Arcane, Mordekaiser. They died screaming. He forged his mace Nightfall from their souls. He raised the immortal bastion. He enslaved Atakan and a fire demon named Tybalk. He imprisoned the Yordle Vaegir inside his fortress, binding him to the physical plane, the worst torture a Yordle can suffer. And he ruled Valoran for roughly 3 centuries. Every soul slain under his reign became his eternal property in the afterworld. He was defeated by LeBlanc and Vladimir, who severed his soul from his armor and sealed the empty shell. Here's the line directly from his bio. Unbeknownst to anyone, he had planned for this. It was a pivotal part of his design. The 2019 rework moved him from the Shadow Isles to pre-Noxus Valoran. A lot of you are still angry about that. For the purposes of this ranking, I'm using the current canon. But yes, I know. They also deleted I like my weapons, how I like my music, heavy and metal. That one hurt. His iron shell currently hangs over the Well of Souls directly beneath the immortal bastion. The same bastion where Swain works. Which means the Grand General of Noxus walks past the prison of the god who founded his empire every single day. Mordekaiser is not waiting to return. Mordekaiser has already won. He's just letting the world forget, so the victory tastes better when he collects. Every power on this list is doing the same thing in a different register. Mordekaiser is waiting. LeBlanc is hiding. Vladimir is remembering. Swain is reading the future. Sion is just slaughter. Darius is discipline. Ambessa was vengeance, until vengeance killed her. Cassiopeia is the transformation they all undergo eventually. The moment when ambition turns you into something that cannot go back. Noxus isn't a country, it's a method, and sooner or later, the method finishes what it started. If you'd like me to cover the Immortal Bastion itself next, the building that is somehow Noxus's seat of government, Mordekaiser's prison, the Well of Souls, and the reason LeBlanc has spent 1,000 years living in the basement, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.